Hello, hello. Welcome back to the show. We are all in for a treat today because I have got my friend, former client in Rise to Legendary, like back in the day in the mastermind, tennis partner, all the things, and neighbor who literally lives like minutes down the street from me in Florida, Kristine Genovese. Welcome to the show.
I am so excited to be here. I can't believe we finally found a time to make it happen.
Oh my gosh. Well, you have been flying around, jetting around the country because you've got a new book out. So let's just go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. Like, let's just dive right into congratulations on your book. That's
Thanks.
amazing. I know you recently just recorded the audiobook. So let's dive in right there. Like, tell us who you are, what you're all about, and tell us about this book.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you again. I'm really excited to be able to share, with your listeners about everything that's going on in my crazy life at the moment. My book is called Healing Through Soul Intelligence. I happen to have a copy in case people are watching. Um,
Amazing.
yep, thank you. And everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you really look like the book cover." I'm like, "I know, it's really me." And
Oh,
believe it
yeah.
or not, this photo was taken during our retreat during in Mexico.
That's
Way
right. With Randy?
Randy, yeah,
Randy.
remember? Yeah, so I was able to use that as the book cover. I just absolutely love those photos. Like we had an incredible retreat in Mexico, and we all said, I remember you saying in particular at that retreat, like, you want girlfriends. I'm like, we're gonna make that happen.
Yes, that's exactly right. And you're the one, that retreat and the conversation we had. I remember we were sitting on the Chase Lounge by the pool. That
Mhm.
conversation is what got me finally back into tennis.
Oh my gosh, I am so
Yeah.
glad. I
I
am
mean, it
so
took me
glad.
like 2 years after that conversation because I just started playing again in February. But you were really like the catalyst that got me over whatever hump I needed to get over to start playing again. So thank you.
Yay, I'm so glad. And I'm so excited. We've actually gone out and hit on the court because that lights up our soul intelligence. So I should probably tell everybody what the heck this is and what am I talking.
Yes.
Well, soul intelligence is like everybody understands IQ, right? You got to be smart, you got to have the intention, all those ideas. And then you know about EQ, right? Emotional intelligence, like how you say what you say. Soul intelligence is tapping into that inner knowing, really getting quiet, eliminating distractions, and tapping into that inner voice. And my soul intelligence method actually helps people get clarity so they can actually hear that voice. And so this method is a bioenergetic method. So what that means is it is based in science. This is not Kristine being woo-woo, because as you know, I'm a pretty grounded businesswoman, like
Mhm.
yourself. But this method actually helps move energetic blocks that are stuck in people's mental, emotional, or physical bodies so that they can get clarity, and that they can tap into the soul intelligence and hear the answers within themselves to be able to be the best version of themselves. So, bioenergetics is really the correlation between your physical well-being and your mental and emotional well-being. So, if you're feeling good, typically mentally, emotionally, you're doing well. If you're feeling bad, typically mentally, emotionally, we're not doing well. And so, emotion is energy in motion. When energy stops, when it's not in motion, it starts to pool and it causes dis-ease within the body or dysfunction within the body or a dissonance in your frequency because everybody and everything is energy, right? We know that from like fourth grade science class, right? We're all protons, neutrons, electrons vibrating in this quantum field. And so what I talk about is all about how you can shift that energy so that you can move these things up and out of your body. So I work with functional medicine and integrated medicine doctors with their patients because typically you go to the doctor and they don't just ask you like physically what's wrong with you. They're like, so what's going on in your life? What stress is at work? What's going on, at home? What's going on with your kids? They want to know all the things because stress is one of the big things that causes dysfunction or dis-ease within the body. It's actually one of
Mm.
the top four things. There's also poor nutrition, right? What we eat, garbage in, garbage out. But it's also the toxicity that we manage. And that's external toxicity. So what do you put on your skin? What environment are you using? What kind of cleaners are in the house? Like how much toxicity we actually have to manage from the environment and Roundup, glyphosate that gets in the food supply and all that stuff, to your internal toxicity, right? Your mental
Mhm.
and emotional wellness. What are you feeding your mind? Who are you hanging out with? I only hang out with cool people, hence why you're one of my buds.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but keeping your vibe high, right? The last thing that causes dis-ease is actually genetic conditions, and it's only about 1%. The other three things we can control. And I might even add in exercise, like movement is particularly important too. But those are really
Mhm.
the five things that
Mhm.
cause people dysfunction or dis-ease or dissonance in their frequency. And so my method actually figures out what that stuff is. Um,
Oh,
yeah. So,
yeah. That's so okay. I am thinking I have so many questions.
okay.
I know you created this. Like this is not something you were taught or you got a certification in and now you're just regurgitating it. And I always think it's so cool and so fascinating when somebody creates a framework or creates a modality or creates a system. Where did this come from? Like what was the origination point? Tell us the origin story of intelligence.
Okay. Well, there was something crazy that happened around March 12th of 2020, a date that's forever burned in my mind. I was a corporate turnaround specialist for most of my career. So figuring out what people, processes, technology needed to shift so the business could reach their outcome, right? So sometimes it was revenue generation, sometimes it was operational challenges, whatever those things were. And on that day, I got a text, well, sorry, on that day, I got a phone call that what I was told by the turnaround, the company that I was involved with. We're in a year one of a planned 3-year turnaround. And I got a call from the head of HR letting me know my services were no longer needed. I was in shock and disbelief because I had just gotten a performance bonus. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, talk about complete mind, you know what? So
Mm.
I was in shock. My husband at the time was actually undergoing a prostate biopsy, which he did turn out to have prostate cancer. So it was pretty crazy time for me. I'm like, what? What is going on? So I texted my boss, the COO at the time, and I go, I just got fired. He goes, me too. I'm like, what? So it was like a whole corporate espionage. The CEO basically bounced the two of us out and then took our plan that we had put together for the board, showing had we been able to hire the people we wanted in the fourth quarter, we would have made the first quarter numbers and exceeded them. So
Mm.
he said we didn't hire enough people when he was the one saying, you know, we had to hold the line on expenses, and he went in on a hiring spree. Now, karma is great, and it always takes care of everything. He did manage to run the company in the ground and lose his company after we left, which is
Wow.
unfortunate, but like they say, karma's a you know what.
Hmm.
Anyway, so what happened to Kristine and how did the method start? Well, I was given a 7-month runway, and I had a really good friend of mine at the time say, so instead of getting back into doing what you've always done, why don't you really think about what you really want to do?
Mm.
And so I was given some time. I had a small exit package, that gave me a little space to figure it out. And I did a lot of prayer. I did a lot of meditation. I had learned a method a long time ago called spiritual response therapy, which was developed by a Baptist minister out in like Portland, Oregon. And it basically used a book of charts and a pendulum, but it always kind of fell flat for me, and it felt very rigid and very religious and not what I thought it should be. And so I kind of had this tearful meditation where I realized I can't go back into corporate life, and that I had to bring soul intelligence into the world. And literally, it dropped in. And so I started working on the charts, and I started learning more about the method and, understanding quantum physics and quantum science and really exploring the field of bioenergetics, and developed the method. And then I got real brave, and I sent an email to my medical doctor. She's actually a triple board certified MD, but she also practiced functional medicine. And I said to her, hey, I know you know me as this crazy executive flying all over the country with fried adrenals. But I have this other side of me where I know I can shift energy and I know I can help people. And I've got this method I've developed, and I'd love to come down and show you about it. So she said, sure, no problem. I said, I'll sit there all afternoon till you have a moment. And that's what I did. And when I got there, one of her colleagues had 3 clients cancel. That never happens. So she's like, okay, start with me. So I did a session for her, and she just started bawling, like kicked her water all over the floor. And like, that usually means you're releasing emotions, like when water
Yeah.
spills or it's flowing, right? In addition to the tears. And she was blown away by the information I was able to share with her. She's like, how would you know all this? I said, well, the information kind of comes through me.
Mm.
And then the doctor knocked on the door. She peeked her head in, saw her colleague in tears and a total mess. And she goes, oh, game on, I'm next. And that was it.
Mm. Really?
It started. Yeah. And then she started referring her patients to me. And that's really how my start in functional medicine happened.
Wow. Okay. So can you maybe think of an actual session with a client or maybe a couple of examples? I would love to hear just so our listeners know, like, what's it like when you take somebody through a soul intelligence session? Like, what does a session look like? And what are some of the results that people get?
Oh, absolutely. Well, my book, first of all, is full of those. Okay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there's no names, right? Because I kind of have to have like the
Yeah.
doctor-client privilege or whatever. But it gives you real examples of like transformation and change. Like one that pops in my head is actually a fellow coach. I know you work with a lot of coaches, and she had a number of her clients like leaving crappy comments in like her Facebook group, and she's like, what's going on? This is so weird. And so, she was a little skeptical at first, but she was like, okay, I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to see, let's just do it. So I did a soul intelligence session for her. And what that entails is pretty easy. This is the other thing that doctors really love about it. There's compliance, because all you have to do is show up to a Zoom. That's pretty much it. You don't have to do anything else. And I think we need to remember that we're human beings, not human doings. And so you just get
Mhm.
to receive. So as long as you're
Mm.
open and you can receive, then you're going to receive the work. So
Mhm.
anyway, so I did the session for her over Zoom. And what we figured out was she had tried everything, right? She tried changing her marketing strategy. She tried changing because she kept attracting these clients that were not supportive, and like they were giving,
Wow.
like really tearing her down. And so what we figured out is that she had this old self-limiting belief that she didn't deserve what was going on, like her success. And so she
Wow.
was in essence like self-sabotaging. And once we were able to shift that up and out, she started to attract the clients that she really wanted to serve. So it was wild. Like that was super powerful. I worked with a CEO who ran like an impact company. So what I mean by that, like someone who's making a difference in the world, right? Having a positive impact. And she had gotten divorced, and she was running this company, and she had like, I know this is a big term, imposter syndrome. Like, how could I be running this company? Right. And she's a bad
Mm.
CEO. She's so good, so kind and loving and just super supportive. And the company, was doing well, but she was starting to feel very insecure. And she was getting a lot of pressure from the board of directors. And so she was like, well, I've tried to shake this, and I don't know why I can't seem to shake this feeling. Maybe I need to hire somebody like to come in and help me, or maybe I need to change my strategy, or maybe this isn't working. The business plan that she had in terms of like the strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years. So she's questioning everything she was doing and second guessing. And I said, well, let's do a session. Let's see. So we did a session, and what we found out is that um, her ex-husband had left her for a younger woman, which was making her feel really insecure. And
Mm.
so once we shifted all of that energy up and out around that old relationship, she got her confidence back. Stella got her groove back. And so
Yeah.
she, she went on to like, continually grow the company, slay her board meeting, And just it really helped restore her confidence and get her back in her power, being in alignment, right? That's what I'm talking about. So you go to a chiropractor for a physical alignment, you come to me for an energetic alignment. Because the problem is most people don't know what it is that they're holding on to, right? And our bodies literally hold energy. Um,
Mm.
and so if we don't move that energy up and out in a healthy way, like through tennis, okay,
Mhm.
or another way, then it causes dysfunction in the body. It can, settle in the your mind. It can settle in your physical body or your emotional body and wreak havoc in all areas of your life where you don't really know it. A lot of the case studies and stories I have in here are actually um, healthcare providers, physicians, nurse practitioners, chiropractors, doctors of all kinds with their stories. Because if you think about it, when you're in service to others, you're used to giving out and giving all of your energy. And usually the last person on your list is yourself.
Yeah.
And so this method has really helped them really kind of reclaim their power. Because I know, as you know, that 95% of what goes on is stuck in our subconscious mind, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's in the body. It's in the body. It's in the nervous system. Which,
Yes.
okay, I want to ask you. I have like so many questions. I was just over here like jotting down some notes for myself
I
because I
saw
want to
ya.
remember. So I'm going to start with this one. You and I both, and we
Mhm.
also know a lot of people. You and I both have done mindset work,
Yep.
right? I've hired mindset coaches. I've been in mindset programs, and it's like very cognitive,
Hmm.
and that's such a buzzword out there. So can you explain like what is the difference between mindset coaching and soul intelligence coaching? And do you use any of the mindset, like traditional mindset coaching modalities to kind of compare and contrast that? And, lots of times I have found myself, sometimes mindset coaching can be so cerebral. And I tend to be so cerebral anyway that it
Hmm.
doesn't always work for me. Because I'm
Right.
like, oh, all you want me to do is change my thoughts? Like, okay, but if I just change my thoughts, there's still stuff like harboring in here that it's got to come out somewhere, right?
Mhm.
Like, but how do I do that? So can you compare and contrast the difference between mindset work and soul intelligence work?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, mindset work certainly has its place.
Yes.
And I use a technique that you might find in mindset work. I call it brainwashing yourself for good. Where we do some foreshadowing, which is I know stuff that we had done actually, a similar type of activity. Anytime you're doing a coaching program like we've done on retreats. So a big thing for me is what I call my sacred soul script, which in essence is you pick the goal and you write your goal out that you want to achieve. But the difference is you write it as if you've already achieved it, right? I think one of my favorite activities we did on a retreat or even a day event that you held is we spoke as if it was 1 year in advance and all the cool
Yeah.
stuff that you've done in the year. Remember?
Yeah. That
Um,
is so hard for people to do too, because we're not usually speaking in that way. And so it
yeah,
causes the brain to have to like totally work in a very different way.
it was so fun. But I
I
love
think
that
you had the
activity.
most fun with that activity. I think everybody else was like, what is this? I can't do this. And you like crushed it.
It was so much fun. But I literally write that out, right? As if it's already happened. And I use a lot of emotion and feeling words. And because the way the quantum field works is this, right? Everything starts with that idea, that initial spark. Okay, so it does start in the brain. Okay, so it starts internally first, but it's that electric spark in the electromagnetic field. But what magnetizes things to you, what brings things in, what collapses the particle wave in the electromagnetic field is emotions. Emotion is what draws it into you. Okay. And then what happens is, with the mindset work, usually what you're doing is you're changing your thoughts because you're trying to change your beliefs. What soul intelligence does is it actually is able to tap into what are those self-limiting beliefs? What are those repeating patterns? What are those negative energies, emotions, and thoughts that are stuck? What are those toxic masculine or feminine qualities that you haven't let go of? When did this stuff occur? How are you still holding on to it in your physical body? What is it affecting? Like which organs within your body is it affecting? Or what body systems is it affecting? So my method allows me to actually tap into that information, which is not always cognitive. Like we don't always know what's holding us back, right? So it can't just be the mind. And when you think about, when you're doing the work that I just talked about, foreshadowing or my sacred soul script, or however you frame that, um, when you think about doing that work, what you're really trying to do is to use 5% of the mind to reprogram what's stuck in the 95%, right? So
Mm.
you have to be really intentional about it. And the biggest key to that is isolation, right? When you think about brainwashing for good, right? You're isolated, you have to control the messaging, you have to repeat the messaging, and then you have to reward with, love in the good sense as opposed to fear. And so the way you have to do that is like every morning and every night. And so I am a serial journaler. And I literally wrote something actually to my community that on my way back from California last week about how I'm literally embodying everything I wrote about. Like,
Mm.
like going to a book signing and having people want me to sign their book and take their picture with me. You know,
That's so cool.
I mean, you're like, what? Being interviewed by the media about the book and about the impact that it's making in functional medicine. Like, um, amazing things like recording the audiobook in a Grammy Award-winning studio, being asked to be in two different documentaries while I was out there meeting with producers, like just crazy stuff. But I journaled, I meditated, I did all of the work. And so I'm calling it, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, but I'm calling it my holy shit moment. Because you open a box and your face is on a book. Like just
Yeah.
all of those moments that I journaled about, and to be standing and embodying that and living that, that's what I mean by my holy shit moment. Like I'm
Yeah.
literally what my higher self was writing about way back when.
Yeah. That's so cool. Okay. So I know you pretty well. I mean, we've known each other since I think 2020. I think that's
That,
when
yes,
we met in 2020.
yes, we did.
Because that Mexico retreat was in 2021, and that live event you referenced was also in 2021. So we met in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And you are someone, this is where I want you to also talk about this. Like you operate in your masculine a lot because of your skills, your strengths, and what you do. You have a corporate background. You are a get it done person. You are a get shit done. You are productive, efficient, effective. You lead people, you lead teams like that. You have been in that world like the majority of your adult life, probably like all of it. And
Mm-hmm.
then it really allows you to tap into this other side of yourself. And I mean, you're a business owner as well. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I have today 7 calls today. Every day this week, I have about 7 or 8 calls. Like you're constantly in your masculine, right? And that can also really take its toll. So, how can we be integrating soul intelligence into our day-to-day lives as women entrepreneurs who are
Mm-hmm.
operating so much in our masculine? Like, how does that work? How does that integrate? And how do you do that in your own life?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Well, first of all, I always have to start my day, right? In I would call it my divine masculine, because the ideal is you got your divine feminine, your divine masculine, and you integrate both of them within yourself. And I will tell you a story in a minute, of how that actually affected me being too much in my masculine. Um, Maybe I'll just go there now for a quick second, and then
Yeah,
I can,
tell us.
how do I daily integrate it? It's in the book, but I will tell you, what happened to me was, growing up, I was taught that, being a woman was weak, crying is weak. There's no place for that in the corporate America, right? And you were to suppress your emotions, and stuff all that stuff down. And I even probably developed very masculine language. And, I would make fun of, girly girls, and, just like it was all masculine all the time. To where I actually had a cervical cancer scare. And the reason why I say they're correlated, is because I went into the OBGYN's office and they did the in-office biopsy, and they're like, I think we need to send these out. And then they said, we need to schedule a conical biopsy where they take you into the hospital and they put you under, and they're going to do it, take more cells. And so between the time I got the in-office diagnosis and the hospital diagnosis, or I had to go to the hospital for that, I worked with every energy worker, healthcare professional I could think of because I'm like, why is this happening? And what can I do to shift this before I have to go and get that done? And I remember the first person I talked to, she's like, well, you have to embrace your divine feminine. I go, well, what the hell does that mean? Like, do I need to be girly? Do I have to wear dresses? Do I have to
We're
dance?
pink.
I'm like, what does that mean exactly? And basically, if you think about what the cervix does in the body, right? It is the entrance to the womb. It's where we birth babies. It's where we birth ideas. It is the seat of womanhood, really. And so I had stuffed all that down, and I was so masculine that that the energy had to go somewhere, and it literally attacked that part of my body. So I, did a lot of energy work. I did soul intelligence work on myself before it even had a name. And I, shifted as much energy I could and worked with other people. I did energetic acupuncture, all kinds of stuff. And then I had another girlfriend who's also energy worker and a body worker, massage therapist. And she says to me, she goes, by the time you go in for that in the hospital, it's going to be gone. I go, okay, I'm going to go with that. So I used that foreshadowing technique, and I just envisioned that when I went in, it's going to go smoothly and nothing's going to be there and it's going to be all good. And I just totally focused my mind, my body, all my energy. So I remember the doctor coming out and like looking at me really weird, going, um, maybe we just cut it all out because it's gone. And I'm like, maybe we did.
Whoa.
So
Yeah.
was it that? Was it this? I don't care. It's gone. But I also embrace the divine feminine. So we do have to have that balance, is my point. Um, so besides like, having rose oil around, which is the highest divine feminine scent, as opposed to divine masculine scent, which is frankincense, which is really funny because I used to have frankincense like in my diffuser all the time. And I'm like, oh my
Oh
God.
my gosh.
So now I'm like, I got to switch it up. But what it means is really tapping into you. So whether that's, meditation, prayer, journaling, listening to a motivational podcast first thing in the morning, whatever those things are that allow you to get quiet and have a ritual and block, just block that time out for yourself, make space that sets your day up right. For some people, it could even be exercise, right? I know for me, um, being out on the tennis court is also a really great release, and helps me kind of get back in touch with me and my physical body, and the things that make me happy, light me up from the inside out. So you've got to give yourself time and space though to be able to tap into your soul intelligence. So it's not getting up first thing in the morning and scrolling social media, right? That's going to send you on a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
It's more about, yeah, giving yourself space. I'm a big one for both prayer and meditation because I feel like prayer is sending out your request, meditation is listening for the answers. Journaling allows me to do that foreshadowing work and get out anything that, may not be productive for me. And really like, where does the next version of Kristine want to go? And what does that look
Yeah.
like? It's a year later, and what does that look like? And updating that and journaling that or visualizing that. So it's giving yourself time. And in terms of how I balance my day, to your point, I'm also the Chief Growth Officer for Nutritional Frontiers, which is a um, nutraceutical company. So that we sell nutritional products, vitamins, and formulations to healthcare providers. And that helps them in the physical. So when you do have something wrong in the physical, sometimes your body needs a little extra help besides the energy work to get it to shift up and out, which is one of the reasons why I work with doctors in concert together. But I have set time aside. So I tend to do my soul intelligence work in the afternoon. And then that way I can kind of put on high vibe music and shift my vibe back into more of that divine feminine. And the divine feminine typically does best when she feels secure and has this great masculine container to operate in. So whether that, you're single or whether you have that divine masculine in your life, I know you do, Megan. Um, but that allows you to really kind of move into that creative space, right? So it's kind of creating that time for yourself to tap in.
Yeah. I ultimately what I'm hearing you say is soul intelligence is your way of life. And it can become a way of life for people as well. It's not just like a one-time thing or I know it or a one-time session or a one moment practice. It really sounds like it's become a way of life for you.
It really has. And that's the coolest thing is people are like, wow, you really do the work. I'm like, yeah, I walk the walk and I talk the talk, right? And I think that's really important. And so that's the coolest thing, is about being able to live, love, and lead my life through the power of soul intelligence. I use this method, with our employees, right? Sometimes, their performance is slipping or something, and they're like, something's wrong, something shifted. I go, well, let's look at it. Do you want to do a soul intelligence session? And they'll say yes. So it allows people, to be able to release whatever's holding them back, especially if they don't know what that is. And
Mm,
I think that's extremely helpful for people.
yeah.
So the cool thing is, if anybody is interested, in learning more about soul intelligence or the session, right? My website is soulintelligencemethod.com. And on there, you can get my book. You can learn more about soul intelligence sessions, whether you want a session with me. I actually have trained practitioners who are able to do soul intelligence work as well, because my schedule is a little nutty. But if people are interested in learning more about it, what I'd love, what my big calling in the world is to teach other people this method. I used it as part of my coaching practice. As you know, when I started working with you, I decided to put my toe in the water, and I was doing, executive and middle management leading to senior leadership coaching. So I started working with executives and their teams, and I said, hey, wouldn't you like an entire company full of people who are lit up from the inside out, who will run through the fire for you, that are totally in line with your mission, your vision, your outcomes? Like, wouldn't you want that? And they're like, yes. I go, okay, well, let's do my leadership program. And so then I would take them through my, quarterly leadership training program. And I would always do a one-on-one in the beginning, just to get to know them and use, kind of an intake. I'd do a midpoint where we'd see like how they've been implementing the tools and things that, were working for them. And then the last session, they've really gotten to know me over this time period. I would give them a choice, and I say, I will do a traditional coaching session with you and kind of check in where you are and set your goals for going forward when we're no longer working together. Or we could do a soul intelligence session where we could get to the root cause of all the challenges that are going on for you at work and at home. What would you like? And everybody chose
Mm,
the soul intelligence session.
yeah.
Yeah, right. And really was able to see a shift and improve. So it's just a matter of, stepping out of that, I think, our traditional comfort zone, and being open to how quantum physics works, how energy works.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Say that website one more time, and it's in the show notes as well.
Okay. It's soulintelligencemethod.com.
Okay. And we can get the book there, sign up for sessions there,
Get on
right?
my email list, sign up
Email
for
list.
sessions. And if you're really interested, I have a course that you can take. It's an evergreen course now. I do coaching once a week in that program, though, live, to answer questions. And I've got a Slack group so people can communicate as well. But I'm really called to teach other people this method. And so I shared that story about how I added it to my coaching practice, because it can really help. Like, if you've got a client that's not being compliant or not moving forward or not getting the results they're looking for, this could really be, an answer to help move those people forward. So I really feel called to teach other people the method, so that, this becomes bigger than Reiki.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so awesome. All right. Well, at the time of this recording, we're heading into the end of 2024. We've got 2025 ahead of us. I have a feeling you've journaled all about what 2025 is going to look like. What is next for Kristine and Soul Intelligence?
What is next? My book will be available in audio version, Kindle version, and a physical book form version before the end of the year for sure. I am doing a lot of speaking with the LA Tribune. My book is actually critically acclaimed by them, and they've endorsed it, as well as the triple board certified MD that I mentioned earlier. But in terms of 2025 and what's going on, my intention is to develop a train the trainer program. So I'm going to teach other people how to teach this method. I am going to be doing a couple of retreats. I know I'm doing one with the OBGYN, who's amazing. She works fertility specialist in Atlanta. We're going to go do that in Playa del Carmen, actually,
Oh,
going back to
nice.
Mexico. And looking forward to that. And I've got, I think, Next year, I mean, in terms of what I've journaled, I'll probably have my own talk show by the end of the year, Megan. So I'll have to have you on as a guest.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so incredible. I mean, to see, I kind of have like a sort of a front row seat to like parts of all of this because this really started developing in 2020. But
Yeah.
man, 4 years is not a long time. And
Mm.
to see what you have created and allowed yourself to just say yes to is really, really incredible. It's just so special for me to see that and to have you on the show too, so that you can share that story and just give people more hope and possibility that whatever it is we desire, we can create it when you believe in it and believe that it's possible. So thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, Megan, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my story. You have been an incredible influence and mentor in my life, and I'm very grateful for our friendship and, of course, our future tennis success and wins.
Oh yeah,
I
because
should
we're gonna
throw that in
win.
there.
We're gonna win too. We
We're
don't just play
going,
to play.
baby.
Play to win. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Kristine, for being with us. You know where to find Kristine. All that information is in the show notes. And until next time, remember to design a business and life that is built to last.